Herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Straßenumfrage und diesmal aus den USA. Wir befinden uns hier in Riverside County, das ist eine Gegend östlich von LA, ungefähr eine Stunde, die sehr stark Latino geprägt ist. Und ich wohne seit knapp 11 Jahren hier und ich kann spüren, dass sich das Klima seit den jüngsten Bestrebungen der Trump-Regierung, Illegale, vor allem Latinos, zu deportieren, merklich geändert hat. Die Regierung Merz in Deutschland hat ja angekündigt, was Ähnliches vorzuhaben. Ungefähr 900.000 Syrer hat Kanzler Merz neulich angekündigt, dass er die deportieren möchte. Und ein Blick in die USA könnte den Leuten in Deutschland verdeutlichen, welche Zukunft ihnen bevorsteht. Und deswegen gehen wir jetzt hier mal auf die Straßen und sprechen mit den Leuten, wie sich die jüngste Politik auf ihr persönliches Leben ausgewirkt hat.
The root question is, if you're here illegally, do you have to be deported? And it's yes. And you will suffer the consequences of that. There's an option. Self-deport, come back legally, and then enjoy the fruits of being a legitimate resident in the United States.
My parents came in legal, let me tell you. My father was a bracero back in the early 1900s, I think. But then, the government gave the opportunity of, to the people that were working and were, good citizens to become legal. And I think that should happen to everyone. When you prove that, you are a good resident, you're working hard, you're supporting the economy, I think they should.
So do you think the administration currently is going too far?
To a certain point. To a certain point, but I also know that it's necessary, because there's a lot of people that are here, they're criminals. They came in breaking the law and then they're not pursuing, a legal status.
So do you think it's something that other countries could take as an example to go from there?
Sure, why not? I mean, because like I said, you also have to, think of the citizens of the country, the safety, because like in this country, I mean, we in the middle, and then, people are coming from different parts of the world, good intentions, but also with bad intentions.
I feel that everything that Trump's been doing is kind of dumb because the land that we live in is supposed to be the land of America and it's supposed to be where everyone has an opportunity regardless of what's happening. There are bad people out there that I do believe like, hey man, yeah, you could get rid of them, but not everybody's a bad person, especially the ones that grew up and were born here, like they weren't like subjected to anything of this and they're getting subjected to it, meaning that like now that they're born into this and it's like before it was like, hey man, this is a free world, you can do what you need to, and that's what America was supposed to be, for everybody to come together and be united as one instead of separating each other's. And I think it's dumb that they're deporting a lot of people, separating a lot of families and all that. And like I said, there are bad people, but there is a lot more good than there is bad.
What do you think the politics should do? Like, should they leave everybody just where they are, or do you think something has to happen because it's too much?
Oh yeah, it's definitely unsustainable. Absolutely. And I think we did this 20 years ago where we were like, okay, like not necessarily amnesty, but we're like, okay, like everybody, like we'll just figure this out. And we kind of did, but now it's not like xenophobia or racism. I don't think. I think it's resentment. Yeah, it's like a lot of us are paying taxes. I'm 48, so I remember. I remember when this first went down the first time, and we're all like, oh yeah, we made it work, but like this, where we're at is unsustainable, right? They were supposed to stop letting people come in, right? And then we were supposed to like do a thing, but we're all paying taxes, and illegals aren't paying taxes. And like that's my thing, man. Like I'm paying taxes for people who aren't paying taxes.
How do you feel about what's been going on with the deportations?
Absolutely. Well, first I'll start by saying I'm actually an immigrant here. I came here 11 years ago.
Where'd you come from?
Kenya. And in my experience here, I think I've really benefited from being here. My family back home has benefited from me being here. There's a lot that I could not have experienced that I could not have gone any other way. And I only feel like it's right for other people to be able to get the same experience and be able to provide for their families in whatever country they're coming from.
So do you feel like a bit of like my parents were immigrants too? I'm an immigrant here, so I kind of like know the perspective.
Yeah.
And I know from my parents, for example, there's this notion of like we had to work to come to this country, so I don't like people just walking over the border, taking advantage of the system I'm paying taxes for. How do you feel about that?
So for my case and for a lot of African immigrants, it is a case that we have to go through a lot of hoops, right? If anything, something that should change is to have that system be more equitable for especially Africans coming into the U.S. Because it's a disproportionate amount of Africans who are not allowed to come in as opposed to from other regions. And yes, it's right. After going through a lot of hoops, and going through a lot of trouble to get here, I think it's only right that we make those processes a little bit simpler, because so much talent is actually left back in Africa that could actually benefit and expand being here.
I mean, when you have borders, they're supposed to mean something. Then during the Biden administration, they completely ignored the borders. I believe it was for stealing votes and having illegal aliens get on the voting rolls. And I think it's got to change. I think we need to deport anybody that came in illegally. It appears right now that they're going after people with criminal records, which I think should be the priority. Anybody who's here illegally that came in and doesn't have a criminal record has the ability to self-deport and then come in legally. This is grossly unfair to people who immigrated legally and went through the proper procedures, and it cost them money to come into our country.
I did.
I understand you have the same problems in Germany.
Yeah, so I left in 2015, and there was like a wave of immigrants. So they just opened the borders, and more than 1 million people came in, 1.8 million. And like now we have a situation in Germany where it's like 30% of the country is immigrants. And a lot of them, like, they came in legally because they opened the borders. But a lot of people, I don't know how much the percentage is, but at least like 50% of the population is against that. And now they're wondering, like, how do we get our country back to the state where it was?
It's in California, it's not exactly the same situation. Most of our immigrants here are Hispanic, and we have a deep Hispanic heritage. So it's not an issue of our losing our culture, because our culture is ingrained with Hispanic culture in Southern California. But I can see you in Germany, you stand to lose your national identity. It's something that has to be considered. I think this was planned. I'm a guy who is against the globalists. And I believe that this was planned to dilute culture. And if people lose their national identity, they're more malleable, they're more easily convinced to go along with something. So I am a person who believes in national identities, and I believe in an American identity and a German identity. 4 years of German in high school, so don't ask me to speak anything because I can't remember it anymore.
I used to live in Morocco for a year, and I realized while I was in Morocco that strangely, like, if you compare to Western Europe, you always get the idea like, oh, we have to bring in all these different cultures, because in my opinion, especially Germans are being told to not like themselves. Like, they feel like bringing in foreign cultures is like a enrichment to what is there already. But in Morocco, for example, that's a no-go. Like, people want to preserve their culture and who they are, their identity. How do you feel about that? Is this something you observe in the West as well?
I observed it within my own experience here, because it's natural for people to want to preserve their way of doing things, their customs, their norms, and that shouldn't be. People shouldn't feel bad for wanting that, right? When I first came here, some of those things meant I had to kind of pick up things, small things like how I enunciate words. It may be very small, but it's to fit into to be more cohesive in this society, right? And that's okay. Anywhere you go, you find very similar things. If we were playing soccer, for example, I tell you this is how the team is structured. This is, you kind of adopt those systems. Society should not feel bad for wanting that, to preserve the norms, right? And it's natural also for people who are coming into a country to want to be able to fit in somewhere, right? So.
You would think so, but like in certain areas, I don't see it so much here. Well, you have that in LA, but it's more cultivated, like little Armenia or like little Ethiopia, something like that. But in Germany, there's certain areas that are like kind of like on the borderline being slums, and they're just like Arabic. You come there as an immigrant, you don't have to speak German, you just speak Arabic, and you get by.
Right. And we have to unpack what's causing that. If you don't have any other options or nothing else is allowed for you to branch out and see other aspects, then you just tend to stick there. And then that becomes almost like a positive feedback loop, where now people are not happy that you're not adopting their customs and norms, and you feel as though you're not comfortable anywhere else. And again, positive feedback loop, right?
So you think it's by design?
I think it could be by design.
What do you think is the goal with it, if it's by design?
Exactly what we're talking about. Everything that we're seeing and the tension that it creates, right? If you were a leader, would you really want to have, if you're a genuine leader who wants the best for all peoples in your state, would you want that tension to arise or even be there? You know, a genuine leader and a genuine person who wants the best will probably not want that, right? But if you have other visions that are not known to the general public or maybe not be in the interest of the general public, it may lead you to those decisions.
I would say just leave the borders open and learn to all communicate with one another. Like I said, if we could communicate, then everything would be more better. It's just not this non-communicating and like, hey, you're the one and this and that. You know what I mean? Like I said, it's better to approach somebody and talk to them rather than to be like, yeah, we don't need them here. That's how I feel.
So if it was you, like in the president's chair, what would you do? Like, would you leave everybody as is, or would you leave the borders open?
I wouldn't worry about so much as the world conflict. I would worry about getting America not great again, as you would say. I would say get America back to where we need to be, where there's jobs out there, people are not bothering each other. America's still big, you know. There's still a lot of land here. There's a lot of land for everybody to live here still. So I don't see why we're deporting people.
So what do you think would be the right approach? Like, do you think just close the borders down, or would you do something with the people that are here legally?
I thought a little bit about this, and I'm just like a normal guy, so I don't know what to do, but like the self-deportation, obviously close the border. Like, that's like number one. Like, close the border, like it's enough. Different world, different time, you know. Should have done it 20 years ago after 9/11 because close the border, and then like do a self-deportation thing. And I don't know the numbers, so I'm just going to throw like crazy numbers out.
What's self-deportation?
So, for instance, like we put the word out there, next 2 years we'll give you, I don't know, it's going to crazy number, but I don't know how much we're losing on. Like I'd have to like think like how much we're losing on, you know, illegal immigration, like monetarily, right? And I'd say, if you leave the next 2 years, we'll give you $10,000 or whatever of whatever money you want, right? Like crypto or whatever country you decide will take you. And I'm sure there's countries out there that are like, oh, you're bringing in $10,000, we'll take you, right? It's a lot of money, it'll go a long ways in other countries. And I think that way you like kind of like weed out the people that don't really want to be here, that just got here, they're like, I don't care.
The people who are in power get their governance from the people. So systems around the world have to be more so geared to what is best for the needs of the people. And that may be different for different countries, right? Maybe different from Kenya, Germany, here, but the constant is listen to the people first and then make your decisions. Not have a grand vision of what you want and accept and have people accept that.
But the mass deportation, I think, was a bad idea. I don't know why. I think like people just keep saying that over and over, mass deportations, but I don't think that's the way I don't think that's going to work. Like if you just sit down and think about the logistics of moving however many 20 million people, like think of the logistics and just do the math, like how those trains are going to be going like all day, every day. Like it doesn't make any sense. Mass deportation is not going to work. It's not.
So why is he doing it? Like, why is he advertising to do it?
I honestly don't know. I don't know. Yeah, cover up Epstein, right? I honestly don't know. I don't know, but it's probably to cover up Epstein, like the war and everything else. Cover up Epstein. Like, for me, deportations is like low on the list, right? Epstein and the COVID thing and all the things that we were like, that's weird, right? Deportations for me is like way down here, right? Because we got tons of fraud, right? There's tons of fraud going on. We have obviously $1.5 trillion for the military. So they're blowing it in Iran. So I feel like we could be using that here, right? Like, I just, you know, everybody's story, the government's stealing my money and they're spending it on whatever they want. Taxation without representation. That's American thing, but it's a real thing.
I like your idea with the deportations, like setting incentives, financial incentives. I think that will work.
Yeah, I do too. I hope so. Well, we'll see what happens. Maybe they don't want it to work, so it could just be chaos here, right? Right? Like, that was the thing after 9/11. Like, everybody's like, oh my God, there's these sleeper cells. And, but they were left the border open the whole time. So I was like, I don't think they're really worried about it. It's like all fake. It's all fake. It's all fake.
I agree.